They say no empire truly believes it can fall. Rome didn't. It believed its roads would carry its legions forever. Its marble forums would always echo with the voices of senators. Its law would remain the gold standard for the civilized world. It was a city of destiny, a symbol of power, the very center of the known universe, and for centuries. Rome's confidence wasn't misplaced. Its armies marched across continents, conquering lands, swallowing cultures, and bending entire peoples to its will. The wealth of nations flowed into its coffers, and its influence spread like the reach of the sun. But history has a quiet way of humbling even the most invincible. Rome did not collapse in one moment. It frayed slowly, like rope unraveling strand by strand. Corruption seeped into its leaders. Greed overran duty. The gap between rich and poor widened until it was an open wound in the heart of the city. The senators who once claimed to serve the people now served themselves, turning law into a tool for personal gain. Common citizens, the ones who built the roads, fought in the armies, and fed the empire, found themselves with less and less, even as the elite built palaces of excess. And when the poor cried out, Rome didn't answer with justice. It answered with bread and circuses, free food and grand entertainment to keep the masses distracted while the foundations rotted beneath their feet. The empire's borders stretched too far. Foreign armies pressed in. Old enemies tested their strength. Inside, the people's faith in Rome's greatness began to wither. And when faith dies, it doesn't matter how many armies you command. The empire is already over. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire fell. The last emperor was deposed, and the eternal city was no longer the world's unshakable power. That's the history lesson. But history isn't just about the past. It's a mirror. And when America dares to look into that mirror, the reflection is uncomfortably familiar. America, like Rome, was built on a promise of greatness, liberty, justice, equality. And like Rome, it built its power on the backs of those it conquered and enslaved. Rome took lands and peoples. America took people from their lands. The grand ideals in its founding documents were written with one hand while the other was still fastening chains. Rome's collapse came, in part, because its leaders ignored the cries of its citizens. America has ignored those cries too, particularly the cries of Black Americans, whose struggle for justice is older than the nation itself. Citizenship in Rome eventually became an empty word, a title that didn't guarantee real protection or equality. For generations, Black Americans have known exactly what that feels like, to be promised equality on paper while living inequality in reality. The parallels run deeper. Rome's wealthy elite insulated themselves in luxury, blind to the suffering outside their gates. In America, wealth inequality grows by the year, and entire communities are left behind. Their schools underfunded, their neighborhoods neglected, their opportunities stripped away before they even begin. Rome gave its people distractions while ignoring their needs. America has its own version: endless entertainment, consumer culture, social media noise. But no amount of distraction can cover the truth. A nation that ignores justice courts its own destruction. And yet, there is a difference Rome never had. When Rome began to crumble, its oppressed peoples had little power to resist the weight of the collapse. But Black America's story is not one of silent submission. From the moment the first enslaved Africans were brought to these shores, resistance was born. It lived in the whispered plans of escape, in the secret learning of letters, in the rhythms of spirituals sung in the fields. It lived in rebellions, in the building of churches that became safe havens, in the creation of art, music, and culture that shaped the very soul of the nation. Where Rome's oppressed disappeared into history, Black America carved itself into it, survived it, defied it, and still demands more than survival. Demands dignity. Rome's lesson is a warning. No empire is invincible, and the seeds of its destruction are planted in the soil of injustice. America's challenge is whether it will hear that warning before it's too late. Because the truth is this: when a nation stops listening to its people, when it chooses greed over justice, when it lets division rot its unity, the fall has already begun. Rome didn't believe it could happen. America doesn't believe it either. But history doesn't need belief to repeat itself. The fall of Rome was not a single day of disaster. It was a long, quiet surrender to its own failures. The danger for America is not a sudden collapse, but the slow erosion of its ideals until they become hollow words. The danger is a country that looks powerful on the outside, but has already lost the trust of its own people. But here's where history offers more than just warning, because while Rome could not reverse its decline, America still can, if it chooses a different path, and that path will not be found in more wealth, more armies, or more distractions. It will be found in justice. It will be found in repairing what was broken from the beginning. It will be found in the voices of those the nation has tried for centuries to silence, the very voices it needs most to hear. Black America has been telling the truth about this country for generations. Truth about hypocrisy. Truth about resilience. Truth about what it takes to survive a system built to keep you from thriving. Those truths are not a threat to the nation's greatness. They are the key to saving it. Imagine if Rome had listened to the people who saw the cracks first. Imagine if it had reformed before the rot became irreversible. America still has that chance. But it will take courage. The kind of courage Black communities have shown for centuries. It means confronting the reality that the nation's wealth was built on stolen labor. It means dismantling the systems that still lock Black Americans out of opportunity, whether through mass incarceration, discriminatory housing policies, or inequitable education. It means recognizing that justice is not charity. It is a debt long overdue, and here's the truth about strength. It is not measured by the power to dominate, but by the ability to heal. Rome knew how to conquer, but it did not know how to unite. America can be different, but only if it understands that its survival depends on the dignity of all its people. The fall of Rome reminds us that the greatest threat to an empire comes from within. For America, that threat is the refusal to face its own reflection. But it also reminds us of something else. Collapse is not the only ending. Black America's story proves that endurance is possible. That even in the face of centuries of oppression, culture can flourish. Families can rebuild. Movements can rise. The same resilience that carried generations through slavery, Jim Crow, and systemic discrimination is the same resilience that can light the way for an entire nation. That resilience is not born of comfort. It is born of struggle, of refusing to accept the limits imposed by those in power, of imagining a future larger than the past. It is born of knowing that survival alone is not enough. We were made to live with dignity. If America wants to avoid Rome's fate, it must take that lesson to heart. It must remember that a nation is not its monuments, its military, or its money. A nation is its people. And when those people are united in justice, no empire can outlast them. History is not a prophecy. It is a warning. Rome ignored the warning signs until it was too late. America stands at a crossroads. One path leads to the same ending: decay, division, and eventual collapse. The other path requires humility, courage, and the will to build something that lasts because it is built on justice, not power. The choice will not be made by the powerful alone. It will be made by all of us, by refusing to be distracted, by demanding more than bread and circuses, by holding the nation to the promises it has yet to fulfill. For our Black America, the fight for dignity has never been about survival alone. It has been about building a future worth living in, about ensuring the next generation inherits more than the pain of the past. That fight, if embraced by the nation as a whole, could be the very thing that keeps America from repeating Rome's fall. Rome's ruins still stand, a reminder of what was lost. But America's story is not finished. The question is whether it will end in ruins or renewal. The answer will depend on whether we finally listen to the truth that history, and the struggle of Black America, has been telling us all along. Justice is the foundation that lasts. Without it, no empire can stand. If you enjoyed this journey, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an adventure into history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.